How you doing? Lawrence McKendall with Scooberlicious Ultimate, and I've got a great guest today, Rocky Beach. How you doing? And today we're going to talk about his career. He just got back from Nationals with Shadows. Talk a little bit about that, how he started in the sport, and really what he's doing is why I started Scooberlicious Ultimate is to really celebrate the people who are doing cool stuff with a piece of plastic, using a frisbee to really expand the conversation of the game and bring people who are not normally exposed to the sport into the sport. So first of all, I want to say high five, give me some play.
How's it going, Lawrence?
Awesome, thanks for taking the time for coming out.
Thank you.
So let me get saddled up here. I hope everybody sees us, trying to figure out as we maneuver here. So talk to you about Nationals. How was it at Nationals?
It was fun. So my goal in Ultimate has always been just to have a good time. I'm extremely competitive, but I go at it from a stance of I want to be playing for a team that I enjoy to spend a weekend with.
Yep.
And we're not getting paid to do this necessarily.
Exactly.
So,
and that's
a good time.
Cool group of guys that went.
It was fun.
Yeah.
A lot of my friends from many years back were on the team, so it's great to join them again.
Yeah, I know a number of the players. And so you were telling me, how many times have you been to Nationals prior?
I think it's like 5 times. Yeah.
I hate guys like this. He's all casual, like, hey. The people I know who get to smell Nationals, even from a spirit team, they're so excited. They want to go. So it's nice when you have a gentleman who plays at a high level of sport and he says what you mentioned earlier, that wasn't the reason why you got into the sport, but it's nice to be with a group of guys who go there.
Yeah, well, just to give you an example, before I played on Revolver, when I went to the Nationals for the first time, we played on a co-ed team called Beer Run, and we got knocked out 2 years in a row and several games to go, and at the end of the day we still felt like it was a great season. Yeah. It was totally a success.
So tell me, so where did you start playing Ultimate?
Yeah, I started playing when I was a sophomore in college.
Cool. Where was that?
22 years ago at UNC Wilmington.
22 years ago.
Yeah.
We're going to check the gain here. Awesome.
Maybe, I think it's actually 23 years
ago. Is that okay?
So,
okay. No.
But I got really lucky. I threw a lot of frisbee when I was a kid with my dad.
Nice.
He's a hippie, loved to throw.
Nice.
We played frisbee golf around the yard with big discs, and he used to always kick my butt. I could never beat him. And so when I went to college and we were tossing a frisbee around one day, my friends were trying to convince me to come out and play Ultimate, and I just thought it was kind of a silly sport, and I said no way for a long time, and then they dragged me out, and it was the best thing I'd ever done.
That's so funny. No way for a long time.
Yeah.
And then you got in.
Well, a long time, couple months.
So is that right? So what was it? Was it athleticism, or simply you just like throwing the frisbee in a team sport? What was the thing that drew you in?
I think it was everything.
Yeah?
For me, it was one, the competitive part of it. I love to compete, and the competitive part of it combined with good sportsmanship. Yeah. I played with the UNCW team at the time, which they were winning national championships. I never played with them because I thought they had terrible spirit and I didn't like their sportsmanship. But they called us the Hippie League, and we actually got pretty good. We played 3 times a week, pickup, and muddy pools everywhere, diving, getting dirty. I loved it. It was awesome.
So I think what you're going to find, and I met Rocky at a USA Ultimate. We were in the basement in Oakland, and we were talking about how the vision for the sport, and the breakout group was about the Olympics. And I bring this up as I think a continuous theme you're going to hear with Rocky is that you like the spirit of the game. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's really important to you, the spirit of the game. Mm-hmm. That's what I got across in how you wanted to see the sport champion. So even in its infancy, when you're coming to the sport, in your infancy, spirit of the game seemed to be very important to you.
Yeah, I actually think it's even larger than that. I think it's just general how to treat each other as humans and treating each other with respect, and I think that can be translated over onto the field, and Ultimate's one of the few sports where it's actually called out.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the unique things about Ultimate. It's actually called out in the rules, but the idea of treating each other with respect on and off the field, I think that if we were really intentional about it, could be drawn throughout a lot of different sports, but it's not as intentional.
I agree, and it's very interesting. I'm going to go on and off because we're fixed on different things, but we'll stay with the conversation. Is that coming from basketball? I never called it spirit of the game. You called your foul, but what made me leave the sport was there was a level at win at all cost. When you were playing around, there were cheap fouls, and it was all about you made your call, but still it was people were winning at all costs, and it really soured me on the sport. When I came to Ultimate, you made your own calls, but I didn't. It took me a while to understand to the level that you are really looking at and appreciate this, that to go, wow, this is a very powerful facet of the game, spirit of the game.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong that I am incredibly competitive.
Yeah, I know you are. Absolutely.
I think for me, what really makes a big difference is, at the end of a game or the end of the tournament, I can go up to the person I was playing against and go give them a hug and say good game and really appreciate the good fight. And it's done with the mutual, like I said, a mutual respect. There's some guys on Jam that used to play against that during the heat of the game. We were competitors, but there's always a respect for each other. And after the game, staying at some of their houses having beers together. So I think that's really unique.
Nice. No, it is unique. And I coach a high school team, and we were playing a team that was really aggressive, and I had a player that was trying to balance what spirit of the game was. What is spirit of the game when that was happening on the field? And he was young, and sometimes I couldn't come up with the answer, and maybe somebody who knows the game is really analyzing could come up with something. So you know what? Because what's the spirit game about when they were doing this on the field and there we were together? I said that, that's the beauty. And as you're going through your journey, you have to make peace and figure out what that is. But sometimes I didn't have the answer. I said, yeah, I understand that. It can be a conundrum.
Yeah, I think sometimes people confuse the spirit of the game with doing really silly stuff on the field, or like a cheer after the game. And while I'm incredibly silly and I like to do crazy things, to me, spirit of the game is that when we're competing against each other, you're going to give me everything you have, and you're going to respect me, and vice versa. And that if there's something that happens, even if there's a discussion or we get upset at each other, which happens, where you're at a point to where you're boiling inside when you're playing sometimes, and it's going to happen. But it's all about afterwards. Can we come to an agreement that we're not purposely trying to change the rule, to bend the rules to our advantage, and that competition is pure, and that we respect it.
Beautiful. Yeah. Nicely put. I like that. So let's change gears again. Let's talk about the evolution of Revolver when you stepped into it. You are playing with a group of guys that are, the thing that intrigues me about Revolver is you have a team that works to sustain themselves every year, and they're the hunted. And they when you're at a pinnacle, you have to show up, because everybody wants to, knock you off. Yeah. So what do you go about? What's from year in to year out? How do you sustain that?
Well, so I've retired a while ago.
And correct me if you want to go in a different direction.
No, but yeah, I think probably what would be more entertaining is the transition into Revolver, because I had played co-ed so after I graduated college, I moved to Europe. I was in Europe for 4 years. My first team ever was called the Patatas Bravas, which is a Barcelona team which still exists. They're amazing. And played with them for 4 years, and we came to the Bay Area, and I was just looking for Ultimate, and met a great bunch of guys, Sean Webb, Ray Fort. Second day I was here, went out for beers after practice with them, and decided that was the team I wanted to play with. Nice. And so I played co-ed for years, and we had a pretty good team. We had a lot of fun. And then at age 30, I decided, or 29, 30, I was going to retire. And I was like, it was time. I was like, I don't know why, I just felt like being captain of the team, it just felt like being captain or leading something always takes a lot of emotional energy. Sure. And I was like, okay, I'm done. I don't really know about the team I want to go play with. I didn't want to go play with our nemesis, and so just to
who was your nemesis?
Brass Monkey. Of course.
Brass Monkey. So the nemesis is very cool. Okay, good.
And they're all close friends. So
okay,
they'll get a kick out of it. But so I decided I was just going to retire, and ended up I take a few years off because I really never retired even since then. But through my friend Louis Eisenberg, met Nick Handler. And he had a different vision of what a team would be like, and especially an open team. Mm-hmm. And I'd always been really hesitant because I grew up watching some pretty gnarly open ultimate, men's ultimate, and it was not my style. But Nick wanted to create something different with Revolver. And, we talked on the beach one day, and one thing led to another, came to a couple tryouts, and it was awesome to be part of that. And, I always felt like I filled a really good role in being like an emotional I'd say I don't want to say a leader, but an emotional stronghold of the team.
Okay.
To really, I keep fighting to the end, whether we're losing or winning, and I feel like in some ways my role was to set up people for success, and I really always appreciated that.
Very cool. Right on. So what was that co-ed team? What was the name of the team?
It's called Beer Run.
Beer Run. Okay, so you also talked about Big Rec. Was Big Rec before Beer Run?
Yeah, it was.
Okay,
and
good.
it was kind of that morphed into the other. Like half of Big Rec went to Beer Run. Like all co-ed teams in the Bay Area.
That's funny.
Lots of movement, as you probably
exactly.
know.
Of course, absolutely.
Which is great. The longest running co-ed team in the Bay Area. Continuous.
No, I would guess. Tell me.
The Feral Cows.
Really?
Yep.
Do tell.
Mischief's been around for a long time.
I was going to pull that out, but that's a recent memory for me. Really? Feral Cows. Very good. Good to know.
So, so I beer run for a few years. I was captain, and I think I just burned out on being captain and wanted to step away. But I kind of stepped right into the Revolver experience, which was awesome to be there from the start.
Yeah.
I like to think if I was young, I could make the team now. But, I think I caught it at the right time.
Yeah,
it was so
great.
Cool the first year to go to nationals and make it to the quarters in our first year of existence, which it really never happened.
Well, the thing is, it's always fascinating. It's almost like when you have a band that has a hit, and then they always break up for creative differences. One person wants to be chill, other one person respect my art, others want to, I'm the songwriter, want to go off on their own, but you kept it together.
Yeah.
And so, why didn't you blow up? Why is Revolver continue?
I think there's some key components. One, our first three captains really set the tone and different tones. So Chris McManus, I don't know if you know him, but he's
I know of him.
Just like relentless, like as a person in a really good way.
Nice.
Like on the field, like he never let people let up, which was awesome. And Mark Weinberger he's also a really hard worker, a blue collar. And he really wanted people to work out and enjoy getting to the top of their game together.
Sure.
And Nick Handler was kind of a combo in between both and really brought the ethos to the team. So I think that, like the captains, especially in the beginning, were really key. And another one of the really key things they did, they put young players in positions of success, and they still do it to this day.
Nice.
They're not afraid to play their young players in big points. So you end up creating pipelines to these universities around here that have so much power and so many good players.
So a couple things I wanted to talk about on sort of branching out. One, I wanted to go back to Barcelona. Now, you work with the beach tournament out there? You're the tournament director?
So we have a couple tournaments in Barcelona. The first one is called the Perón Open. This October will be the 20th anniversary. It's a hat tournament, and it's one of the most fun tournaments you could ever go to. I went to the first 10. And then just travel. It's just too hard to make it to a number of the ones since 10 to 20.
Yeah.
But I'm going back this year for the 20th anniversary.
Very cool.
And then the team I play on called Sexpensive. We started a tournament in Barcelona in the spring.
I was going to say that happened earlier this year.
This year. And it's off the charts. It combines what I don't know if you remember the old Paganella.
Yes.
What Paganella used to be. Paganella is like a tournament of our generation, not a tournament of the younger generation. And what it was is one of the few tournaments in the world that combined super high level with a high level of partying too. And that doesn't really exist that much anymore. You have where you go as a team. Right? You go and have fun together as a team, but you also have good games.
Very cool.
It's usually all serious or all party.
So this one that you're having in Barcelona in the spring, you're trying to replicate that.
Yeah, but we've already kind of maxed out on the size we want to grow it to. We have replicated it.
How many teams?
We had 12 open, 12 women's, and 16 co-ed.
So what type of pipeline do you have out of the Bay Area going over?
We had 2 teams.
Really?
Gorilla brought a team, which was awesome.
Good, I didn't know that.
Gorilla team, and
you brought a team.
And we brought our team, the team that organizes it.
Yep.
And then a group of folks, which is a mixture of Sockeye, New York, and some of the Clapham folks out of the UK.
Nice.
Joined together. They actually won the tournament. It was like Will Chen and John Greenberg.
So is this sort of your connection that's you influenced, or is there marketing? How do people know of this?
Just connections.
If you know, you know.
Yeah, just connections. Yeah,
okay.
It's kind of like
if you have to ask, you don't know?
It's like
okay.
the Fight Club.
Exactly. Very nice. That's good. Very cool. So that was the one question. And the other question is, I want to talk about Barcelona, but...
and I want to go back and repeat. It wasn't
please.
Greenberg. It's Nick Greenfield. field was the one
Nick
who
Greenfield.
organized
Okay,
it.
thanks. And it was that was the one question because we were talking about a little bit about Barcelona when we spoke a month or so ago, but maybe we'll come back around in Revolver.
Just like that, I think that's probably a good segue into just like beach ultimate in general.
Yeah,
I would say if I had a choice, I would play beach. If I had a choice 10 years ago,
but you still
I would
play.
Beach.
I mean, you play don't you play weekly?
Yeah, I still play on the beach.
That is
beach. It's probably the best pickup game in the country.
It's a beautiful game. I always sort of wax it. You should put a drone over your game and take a picture because it really is. When I was watching you guys play, I'm like, that's a really
anytime you can get some Revolver players to come out and some Fury players to come out and play pickup, it's going to be high quality.
Really a nice game. Yeah, absolutely. And then that's the thing. I think any layperson sit there and just watch. You need a Leroy Neiman out there to sort of capture that on canvas because I think it's a beautiful game. So why is it? What makes it so unique?
Beach in general?
Yeah.
I prefer it just because I'm a grinder. I like to really like wear people out and run and run and run, and I think the beach just plays to my suit. I'm also a pretty light person in general, and if you learn how to run in the sand, you can be faster proportionally to people on grass.
Sure.
I love to throw in the wind and usually get wind, and wind separates people.
Yep.
Like I feel like.
Yep.
So all those factors, and how many times on the beach and you're having a bad time?
This is true. Well, Ocean Beach can make it for bad for the brochure.
It doesn't matter.
I've seen sometimes like going, this is not good for the brochure, but true. I mean, Tyler Grant talked about his strength was he was able to throw in the wind. So what do you need to do in order to throw in the wind so well?
I think the wind taught Tyler how to throw.
Okay, well, that might be.
I love Tyler.
Yes. You went to his wedding.
So what was that question again?
So how does one? We'll talk about technique. We're getting ahead of ourselves, but how do you throw in the wind? What makes you mentioned about?
I think it's all what I teach my kids as part of Ultimate Impact. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Is it's all about foundation and using your legs. I think so many players don't think about their balance when they're throwing. If you really want to pivot well, you got to know how to get into the point where your legs you can use your muscles to pivot instead of getting off balance and having to take a couple extra milliseconds to cross. So that's the first thing. Second thing is just form and snap, getting power on it. And
so quickly the professor comes in. We're into form and snap. Absolutely.
Snap.
He didn't drop physics into the equation, but he knows he's going to get very quickly. I know we could go there.
I think the key is also throw so much and be willing to challenge yourself in throwing. A lot of people will get out and throw, but never push themselves to get better. You have to make mistakes along the way, and prefer that you make them in practice. But I love just throwing in general and trying new things and picking one throw to get better at.
Well, I think it's up to a coach to give the permission to the player to make a mistake.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times they don't want to make that mistake because they don't want to have the ire of their teammates or the coach. So that's a good.
Well, I think the time to make mistakes is in practice or or in a tournament in some cases, but. It's about learning from it and learning how was it a decision-based mistake, was it just an executions are fine, it's more execution errors are fine, it's the decision-based ones you gotta really improve on.
I agree with that, so very much so. I want to dwell on Revolver a little bit more. Were you familiar with the sockeye game that just happened? Talk about over the last few years, your highs and lows. You've got another situation. Are they growing? They've got. How do you see the evolution of Revolver and where they are now?
Yeah, I think went out for beers with my buddies Ashlyn and Russ a couple weeks ago, and I'm in agreement with them. It's probably the best team they ever had.
Right.
I think the key point in any team is, are there enough role players to make a team successful and glue? I think anytime you have a team, you have too many superstars, that you can run the risk of everyone trying to win. Everyone trying to make the throw to win.
Right.
And I think the unique balance this year is their superstars are also willing to be role players.
Good.
Which I think might be the best team ever. They're going to get beat. I don't think a team has ever gone undefeated ever in Open Ultimate in history, and so first season. I could be wrong, but I don't think it's happened. And they're gonna have losing a game in the finals is not that bad.
Right.
They won the tournament before. Sake is great. There's a lot of parity at the top.
Fine team.
And so,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
So, when you talked about blue collar,
yeah,
a role player in blue collar, and it's nice when you have an abundance of riches, but they're able to check themselves. So you have superstars that are able to take roles.
Yeah.
How do you, is it that starts out with the top people going down? How do you do that?
I think it starts with the top people going down. It starts with the cats, but I think it's also got to start with your top players. When I say top people, I immediately jump to captains and coach, but I think it's got to come from your top players being willing to do that. I had dinner with my buddy Mark Sherwood last week, and we just talked about the first few years. I think he's one of the best players I've ever played with.
Nice.
And
why?
Just because he
quality?
could single-handedly turn a team around.
Wow.
And
that's nice.
On defense,
yeah,
offense.
That's nice.
And just brute force.
That's nice to have that ability. Yeah.
But he was also willing to be a great team player.
Great.
And he can do both. Same thing with Robbie Cahill. Same thing with Bo. Bo is an amazing teammate in terms of willing to dump it, willing to move it, willing to take the first open pass. Probably one of the best players in the game right now is Joel. And
yeah, he's a yes. That's a yes.
He will do anything for his team, and
yeah.
Even if it takes,
Joel Slockett.
Just passing it backwards,
yep.
as a dump 10 times in a row, he would do that to just score. He wants the team to win. So I think if you have a team of folks like that, I think you're in a good place.
So this is not so. So that's very interesting that you said that, and you painted, and I'm glad you sort of added context, because you want a team that can have a short memory. You lose a tournament, we're just going to march on and go down. So that's great.
Yeah, I think you also had this on the flip side, though. If you win a tournament, you have to have you need to remember it, but you also need to realize that that's a one-time thing,
right.
And you need to appreciate it. You need to celebrate it. But it's not going to make you win the rest of the tournaments.
Yep.
I think same thing from point to point.
Yeah.
Just success on one moment does not equal success in the future.
That's great, and I think you need to be that way. Exactly what they say, act like you've been there before and act like you're coming back again. You just handle up. So,
well, it's interesting. Just a really quick point is that our first year in Revolver, we won the Cal States tournament, and it was early on. There were really good teams there, and we were, I was playing with a lot of the really great Stanford players who'd won a lot in college and won a lot of tournaments. And I hadn't won that many team tournaments. I won some hat tournaments here and there, but like I said, I was on co-ed teams that we weren't very good.
Right.
And so I told these guys, I was like, look, let's appreciate this. We won this tournament, even though it's not nationals. It's still an achievement, and we need to celebrate it. Especially the then and there. And so, I think it was really important. I think in Revolver we did a good job with that.
Well, I'm sure winning states, even in a smaller tournament versus the bigger ones, you had to be pleased. I mean, were you surprised, or were you like, we sort of expected to win?
Oh, that team that year had something special.
Yeah.
I think we knew it. We probably the shortest team in history. I think our tallest player at the time was John Levy or Eric Halverson, and they were maybe 6'1".
Really?
Sorry, John.
Wow.
But
no.
So and the rest of us were 5 or in between 5'7" and 6 foot.
It's nice to have some height on a team, so you can go upstairs. Absolutely, it makes a big difference. So that's very funny. So talk about. We're going to shift to Ultimate Impact. I mean, you've had a lot of miles throwing, running. You've had time to observe the evolution of the sport. What was that aha moment that you wanted to sort of move?
Yeah.
When did it turn into I've had this idea, and when was it time to act on it?
Well, I'll give you a little bit of the history.
Please.
I used to work for a nonprofit. I worked in nonprofits basically my entire career, and I worked for a big nonprofit called United Way.
Okay.
And United Way covered 7-county Bay Area, and my job was manager of volunteer services. And I took a group of corporate volunteers down to the Bayview. I don't know if you know much about the Bayview neighborhood in San Francisco. Really tough, really tough neighborhood. And the volunteer project was volunteers from from McKesson were doing a general gardening project. And after the project, the volunteers went home, and I hung around. It was like an after-school program for low-income youth. And I threw the football with the kids, and I shot basketball. And I told the program director, someday I want to start an ultimate program here. And we exchanged numbers, and he would call me every year, be like, yo, Rock, is this the year? We're going to do it.
Nice.
But I was playing on Revolver.
Very cool.
Too much time.
What year was this?
That was around 2005.
Okay.
And in 2010, when I retired, we spoke, and I had the bandwidth to do it. And so I traveled down there and started a ultimate program for kids 6 to 13 as a volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
And I would do it once a week during the summer, and bike down, coach for an hour, and then bike back all my lunch hour on Friday.
Nice.
And became one of the most powerful things in my life, seeing these kids grow up. Also, it becomes incredibly challenging because as you see the kids and their trajectory, see how few pathways they have to success. Like the life is stacked against them.
Yep.
From transportation to jobs to opportunities.
Friggin' environment of the
to
baby.
mentors,
Yeah.
the environment of the baby,
Yeah.
surviving, and just actually living and surviving.
Yeah.
And so it just became a really powerful part, but also became something I really became emotionally attached to. But I couldn't do more because I was kind of maxed out on my job. And so this past 2016, a year and a half ago, I started thinking through a couple of the complexities of why hasn't our sport done more in underrepresented communities? Why have we? What sports had done well, and why is Ultimate lacking in that space? Why isn't there more diversity in our sport? Something that's incredibly powerful to me. Like our community is diverse. My neighborhood is diverse. This sport that is so special to me.
Yep.
Why are we not doing a good job in that area? And so, just churning on that for month after month, and the incredible disparity of the tech space in San Francisco with, I feel like the huge income gap to areas, neighborhoods that people don't even know about.
Yep, ever
To me,
widening.
it was just really sad.
Yep.
And so I decided to do something about it, and that's the genesis of Ultimate Impact.
Very cool. So I can understand why you built on that. So you have the genesis, and so it was just a matter of, I got a bag of discs, or did you have to start? Because now you're a nonprofit. We haven't got to the point of doing a nonprofit, but walk me through what that was.
Yeah, no, it's a really great process, and I feel incredibly fortunate there's milestones and really critical points along the way that have made a huge impact on where we are now. First thing, my close friend and really amazing organization, Bay Area Disc.
Very nice. Yep.
Partnered with them in the beginning,
Cool.
and they were the framework for the launch. They helped me get Ultimate Impact off the ground.
Very cool.
And that was really critical from the start. Another really critical point is early funders.
Good.
People who came to the table with large sums of money to, one, validate the idea that this could happen, to really fire me up as, I'm a pretty emotional person, and if I have positive inputs and little success metrics, it makes me work harder.
Sure.
And to have people I care about want to give to this was incredible. And so that from the financial and resource and emotional standpoint were really great. From the kid's standpoint, being able to work with my pilot location, where I had started many years ago, and increased the number of times we coached the kids, I started to see it pay off.
So what was the pilot location?
It's in Bayview. It's at a recreation center called Gilman Playground.
Yep.
And it's a free after-school program.
Very cool.
And during the summer, it's an all-day summer program.
So what were some of the metrics that, you put out your appeal, you're getting positive feedback from your community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go do this. We like what you're doing. What were the metrics that you were making an impact in this community, in the community?
Yeah, so they're looking at the measurements and metrics of what I'm trying to achieve in the program, which are components of social emotional learning and social emotional growth,
Mm-hmm.
conflict resolution,
Very good.
compared to outcomes and the metrics there of the number of kids I serve, number of schools we work with. Those are two different components, and the outcomes we're going to be measuring over time. Is the kid, through Ultimate Impact, does the youth improve their confidence? Does the youth feel more comfortable working with adults? Does the youth feel more comfortable making decisions amongst each other, resolving conflict? So those are emotional behaviors that we're going to be measuring over time. The outputs of number of schools we're working with, we've grown it from one school, one private location to 4, working with over 50 kids a week. And it's just
this is cool stuff.
Yeah,
anyway,
it's really cool.
Fantastic. I'm sure, just a pat on your back. I'm sure you're very pleased by that.
I am pleased and proud, but I always want more.
Yeah, no. Well, I think to all your point, you're saying all the questions you were asking yourself. That's what put me in that basement talking to people, going, why I was talking about the Olympics, because I want people to understand this on all levels, that this is a cool sport, not about a dog and a basket, but it can be done with athletics. But there's different measures. We'll get back to that.
Oh, yeah. And the reason I joined the Olympic conversation at the USAU meeting is because I want to see some of my youth in the Olympics someday.
That would be cool. That would be a very cool moment.
I would be so proud.
Sure.
I'd be more proud than any moment I've ever personally had in the sport playing. So when I see my kids enjoy this sport, when I see my kids get better, it's a whole different, I was proud of myself as a player, but it's a whole different level, and it's something I want to see.
So let me ask a leading question, wondering, and it's sort of out there going, if I was running the organization, that would be a stretch goal. Do you see someone stretching beyond their comfort point? Maybe they've become president of their class, or they're doing some other program or something that's allowed them to step beyond the confines of the field? Oh,
yeah, without a doubt. So first of all, the age range we work with is predominantly 7 to 13.
Okay.
The reason being, it's a little more challenging to teach a 7-year-old how to play Ultimate than it is a high school kid. But if we really want to affect these kids' lives and give them positive mentorship and give them a framework for growth, that's where you got to start. You can't. High school's too late. Middle school, sometimes it's almost too cool for school.
Yeah. And
teaching a kid a new sport, it's tough. Right. But we are in 2 middle schools and 2 elementary schools, and we've made traction in the middle schools. And I think there's lots of success stories, lots of amazing kids. But for me, I was able to hire 2 of the 14-year-olds that were a part of my program last fall and spring. I was able to hire them as junior coaches this summer, so they were coaching the little kids.
That's
and having one of the mothers of one of the junior coaches call me and say, "You made a huge difference in my son's life. I can't believe he gets off the couch on the weekend, and I can't believe he's got a first job doing this." How cool is that?
Yeah, no, very much so. And those are incremental steps, I think. And that's the funny thing, is I've got friends that look at this sport going, "Why are you playing this sport?" I said, this is a really cool sport on so many levels beyond the disc, and this is cool that you're doing that. And it is.
Well, so I guess that ties back into an earlier question of why Ultimate. What's special about Ultimate?
Yeah.
It's unique. I was talking to a former teammate of mine about a month ago, and we agree, Ultimate's not the silver bullet, right? It's not like you say, okay, here's Ultimate, go make a difference in someone's life. I think it's everything wrapped up in it. It's the community and the network of people and the opportunities. But I also think if we look at the pure sport itself, what makes Ultimate unique, it's not the silver bullet, but there is something very unique to throwing a Frisbee, where I could be out throwing for an hour with a friend and talking. The trajectory of the disc, seeing it fly, the feeling of catching it is way different than throwing a ball.
Completely.
It's way different. And I think there's a lot of freedom. It feels like you're free when you're throwing, and I think it's not a silver bullet, but that's what's special.
No, I completely, and I'd say is that when you are, hey John, how you doing? When you are throwing it, you cannot be angry for long.
Yeah.
Throwing this, you have to smile.
Yeah.
I mean, even if someone throws it in front of you, walking on the sidewalk, you pick it up and you throw it. Even that connection, throwing it back to the player, it's like, hey, thanks a lot. It's just a lot of joy, even that small connection. So
yeah, it was really cool to see one of my youth. He hadn't thrown in a week. One of my junior coaches, because we ended the summer coaching program because they're going back to school. And his summer job came to an end. He already wants to work for me next summer. But he picked up a disc and he's like, man, it feels really good to throw this. Nice. And I'm like, wow, you've only been playing for 4 months. It's so good that he feels that too.
This is fantastic. Yeah. I love that. So let me ask, so looking at this program, you want to, is this, where's the next phase? Is this something that built into the curriculum, built into